Hello, upper cervical doctors and students. Welcome back to the UCM podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bill Davis, founder and CEO of UCM Practice Growth Systems. Excited to have with me today, back on the podcast, Dr. Levi Wainwright from Tallahassee, Florida. Welcome back to the podcast, Dr. Wainwright.
Thanks, Bill. I'm excited to be here. Glad to be back on. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah. Excited to have you. Great practice in Florida. Anybody out there doesn't know you, can you introduce yourself to our audience? Just tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So I'm a NUCA upper cervical doctor. I've been practicing basically since the end of 2013. I've been in Tallahassee, I think, since 2017, and basically have loved upper cervical ever since I was in school at Palmer, Florida. And I've just really enjoyed the journey of developing and learning how to take care of people.
So Palmer, Florida, that's where you went to school. Is that where you kind of started getting into upper cervical, or was it before that?
Yeah, I was then. I had actually never been to a chiropractor when I had started school. I just knew from some of my family experiences that I kind of wanted to try to get into more natural health, something that wasn't really, I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to be a physician. I didn't want to really just do drugs though, or, like basically allopathic care didn't really line up with what I was into. I really preferred trying to kind of do some kind of natural health. And so chiropractic seemed like a kind of an easy dovetail into that. And so ended up going to Palmer, Florida after I finished my undergrad as far as in spinal, basically in kinesiology and physiology. So got into it then, and then just basically went to Palmer and kind of stumbled across upper cervical care. I didn't know much about it. Even at Palmer, Florida, really Palmer, Florida, even to this day, probably doesn't have a huge upper cervical footprint or base there. So there was like one professor that did upper cervical there. And so long story short, after he and I kind of going back and forth, and we were kind of, there was a little bit of an adversarial relationship to begin with in class, and he invited me to his clinic to basically shadow. And after kind of watching him shadow, I realized like, hey, there's something else going on here that I think made a lot more sense to my more biomechanical mind. And so I actually started off learning the Grostic procedure and took all the Grostic electives around the area. We had to actually leave the school to go take our elective at Life at the time. So anyway, I got into Grostic and got Grostic certified, and then really kind of learned that as far as upper cervical goes, the community is a pretty tight-knit community, but one of the biggest, I would say, double-edged swords of upper cervical is you have a lot of hyper-independent folks, right? We're kind of, we're all, I would say, different independent thinkers is probably the better way to put it. But the long story short is it kind of yields a lot of kind of splinter groups, and there's not necessarily a whole lot of peer overview. Everybody kind of does what's right in their own eyes, I think. And so that kind of, leads to a lot of innovation, but also leads to, I think, just a lot of people doing whatever the heck they want to do. And so I found that NUCA had the best organization with the most, just kind of the best network and the best organization with oversight, and that kind of solves some of that problem. And so I just fell into NUCA and loved the idea of going to conferences and having people consistently working together, trying to get better, trying to pursue excellence. And then of course they have their own certification process. And I think other groups have kind of joined into that here in later years, but NUCA of course has really pushed that very heavily, very, very rigorous process. So I always loved NUCA. Basically after my first conference, I was hooked.
Nice. So went to Palmer, Florida, found NUCA, Grostic, eventually to NUCA. Mm-hmm. And then when you came out of school, did an associate position initially, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that like? Where did you do your associate position? What did you learn there?
So I associated under Dr. Dave Packer, who's a board certified NUCA doctor. He's in Chesapeake, Virginia. I worked with him for several years. Really great associateship in the sense that, if you know anything about Dave Packer, you know that he's kind of like relentlessly trying to get better, relentlessly trying to push and train and get better every day. I would say that's probably like the greatest thing that I learned from him was just like, hey, you don't have to be 100 times better tomorrow, but if you can get like a little bit better every week, over time, it just adds up. And even to this day, I mean, I still touch base with him, and he's constantly pushing to get better, whether it's in practice or in business. And so, yeah, so he and we would train NUCA every week, like on Fridays. We would do he'd have some kind of contraption that he had somehow acquired from Dr. Birdie or from someone. He had like a chest light harness and various equipment that he would pull out of the closet, and we would work on that pretty much on a weekly basis. And so, yeah, I mean, as far as just doing an associateship, there's always ups and downs and different things that, that present challenges, but that was, I think, a great associateship.
Yeah. Dr. David Packer, obviously just relentless, right? Is the way I would describe him, just very, just so committed to the work, getting better and helping others as well to get better at this work. And so with, did your associate position there, you're there a few years, right? And then went out on your own. And when you went to Florida, you purchased a practice, right? That was what you ended up doing from Dr. John Dunn. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I had made a contact with Dr. Dunn when I was at Palmer, Florida. Again, there wasn't a whole lot of resources at Palmer, Florida at the time, and so I was kind of starved for upper cervical. I would drive pretty much anywhere. I was hungry to kind of get whatever I could, and so I would occasionally go up to meet Dr. Dunn and just practice with him. Practice NUCA and various, setups and things like that. And we would drive over to, I think it was Clearwater, which is where the Pierce Clinic is. We'd hang out with those guys and see what they were doing with advanced orthogonal and such. But anyway, so I purchased the practice from Dr. John Dunn. I have some family in North Florida, so I knew I kind of wanted to be in this area. And yeah, so long story short, I bought his practice in 2017 and pretty quickly realized I had to kind of update a lot of stuff. Dr. Dunn, for all of his strengths, his weakness was technology. So at that time, he was using plain film X-ray and no computers. Everything was still on paper in 2017. And so for myself, that I had quite the undertaking as far as trying to modernize the practice and bring it pretty much into the 21st century. So yeah, it was kind of a weird situation just from an upper cervical standpoint. I started off with plain film X-ray with Dr. Packer, and then he converted to digital while I was working with him. So I was like, okay, great, we're on digital X-ray doing this, and then went back to Florida and went back to plain film, which was a very hard transition until my digital X-ray got installed. Then went back to digital, and then now I'm finally on cone beam CT, which is kind of another step. So we can get into that later, but I've kind of seen the full gamut of imaging through the process here.
For sure. So, and I know, I mean, in your practice as it's grown, I know that, you became board certified, right, in the NUCA technique, which is quite an accomplishment. Not many people get to that level with NUCA care and being able to deliver it at that level. And I know that's just a beginning step. You get to that certification, and there's a whole lot more to learn. But talk about that a bit as far as that process of getting that place of board certification and the level of excellence and quality and whatnot that you had to get to with your care to get to that point.
Yeah, this is a whole topic I could spend quite a bit of time on, but so of course it started off with just, again, pursuit of excellence from the get-go with Dr. Packer. He one of the things that he really pushed, I think, with all of his associates, was them being involved in the certification process. And that's something that I'd like to see carried over in the future, when I help other doctors, because it's basically free coaching, or virtually free coaching,
Right.
as far as for an oversight and peer review. A lot of people just, when it comes to any kind of process, whenever you're trying to learn any kind of skill set, no matter what it is, having a tutor, having someone to basically say, hey, like, you might not even know that you're not even doing this correctly, but like, hey, here's this thing, will soften the learning curve monumentally. And so that was a huge benefit, just to have him in my corner. But I had I basically had gone through the first 2 levels of certification while I was an associate. I basically finished it in like 6 months or something, and pretty much just burned through that. And then I went out onto my own for practice, and that kind of got put on the back burner. And I kind of got discouraged a little bit, just with the amount of responsibilities that were coming in as a practice owner, and all the different hats I was having to wear. And I just said, I can put certification on the back burner for a couple of years. I got to kind of get some stability in my life financially. And ultimately, I do think that was probably the best, the right decision to make. But anyway, long story short is, I think after, I don't know if it was the last podcast I did with you, but I posted somehow I posted something online, and Marshall Dickholtz Jr. messaged me and basically had kind of, let's say, admonished me, and he was pretty good friends with John Dunn. So we had some connection, not a ton. We hadn't spent a whole lot of time together. And so he had kind of admonished me, I think. And so he kind of, I don't even know how to say this, he basically just really irritated the heck out of me, because he basically was just like telling me, like, hey, you're not, like, you need to be in the game, like, you need to be doing certification. And I think Dr. Dickholtz, God rest his soul, I think he was accustomed, and I can kind of see more so now from his perspective, but he was accustomed, I think, to people saying, like, oh yeah, I'll get to that later. Like, I'll do that later, kind of putting it on the back burner, and just kind of never getting to it. And so anyway, long story short is, after he had kind of irritated me, I started the process of kind of doing my last set of submissions with Dr. Lipinski. And I basically, it was kind of I don't know, there was a couple things that happened at that time. I don't know if I've shared this with anybody, but my wife, basically after, sorry, I'm trying to lay this out, but after Dr. Dickholtz had pretty much set me on the war path to finish certification and finish like the last 2 submissions, my wife got really ill. She got really ill and had spent a couple months in the hospital. And so from my standpoint, essentially my life was just kind of like, it felt like it was falling apart. I mean, it wasn't truly, but it was pretty painful. My wife being in the hospital and me at home alone, and just, I pretty much had nothing in my life that I had control over, other than basically going to work and reducing a subluxation for someone. That was like the only thing that I had. And so, or I felt like I had control over. And so I pretty much just gave everything I had over a period of a couple months, and pretty much knocked out all my set of 10 for certification. And I submitted them and ended up getting certified pretty quickly. And then I got a phone call from Dr. Lipinski, and probably within 10 minutes, I got a call from Dr. Dickholtz, basically telling me how excited he was and how he was surprised and how he had to eat his words and all of that. And so I really respect the heck out of him for that. And I do miss him, now that he unfortunately has passed away. But yeah, I had a pretty good relationship that kind of grew there at the very end with him through certification. So yeah, that's kind of the short story.
That's amazing. Yeah. And how's your wife doing now?
She's doing really good. Yeah, she's doing really good. It took about a whole year for us to kind of navigate a whole lot that was going on, on the personal end of things. But yeah, she's doing great, and our life is excellent. And I can't, I don't even, in some ways I don't want to talk about it too much, because I get so emotional, but yeah, I'm just really, really excited that she's recovered. And we're back to, I would say, kind of normal. You cannot be thankful enough for your health.
Yeah,
When
yeah, for
crisis
sure.
happens.
Yeah, that's it's amazing when you have the blessing of work, right? I mean, when you especially when you're going through hard things in life, personally, or whatever, and you can really just focus in on your work and be able to do it with excellence. There is joy in that, and it's amazing what you can even accomplish sometimes when you can only focus on work. There's nothing else you can really do, and like you said, that's what it kind of came together for you with the certification. And so as the practice obviously has continued to grow, and tremendous practice there in Tallahassee, let's talk about kind of what it's become. Obviously, it's not just you. You got a team. You guys work together to serve patients. What is the experience like in the practice? What is what are some of the kind of the patients that you're taking care of? What's the what's the systems and things that you have in place that really make your practice unique?
Yeah. So one of the things I think that makes our practice really unique to start with is the limited amount of volume of patients that we see. This all, again, I think did start pretty much around the time where I was going through certification, because I realized when it comes to doing NUCA certification and you're trying to really work down subluxations and you're taking multiple sets of post x-rays from multiple attempts of adjusting people and trying to basically get this subluxation to tap out on you and really just kind of like, release. You unfortunately, maybe not unfortunately, but just the reality is you have to dedicate quite a bit of time to that. And from my experience, with most chiropractic offices is high volume, I think, is the king, or has been king for quite some time. Like, that is the quintessential chiropractic model. You typically have open adjusting bays, and basically you have hundreds of people coming in weekly. And it's really difficult, I find. I mean, I'm sure practices do it, but it's very difficult, I find, for especially single doctor offices to basically balance the tension of make a very profitable business, give great quality care, and basically see enough people, essentially, right? Balance the time. And so what I realized with certification is I had to kind of position myself in a way where I had to give myself a financial incentive in a way to want to go back and do multiple post x-rays and things like that. And so ultimately, long story short, is I realized I had to charge more. I had to increase my fees. I had to basically create more value for people. I had to be able to communicate value to people in a way that they would want to pay those higher fees. But basically, I needed to see less people and charge more, but still come out with a bottom line that I wanted to see, essentially. And so about 5 or 6 years ago, I started kind of moving my practice to that. And now, in our practice, we see, as far as for volume, just to give people an idea here, as far as for my practice, I typically see somewhere between 80 and 100 visits a week, which isn't, I've seen less. It can vary from 60 to 80 is usually the average, and then 100 is probably my max at this point, which is not that much, I think, in the grand scheme of things. But typically with our practice, we're typically collecting over 100,000 a month. Is our typical average, and so we've tried to set it up in a way. I suppose maybe an easy way to understand it is trying to set up a practice where you kind of have a high level of experience, where people not only begrudgingly pay for $6,000 or $7,000 or $10,000 care plans, but rather they want to. They're excited to. They refer people to. They want it. And so if you can build the value by providing great service and great communication in multiple avenues, whether it's on the phone before they even come into your office, whether it's the scheduling system before they even get in, all the way through to your team, how they greet them, kind of like the difference, I suppose, you would think maybe between like Chick-fil-A and let's say like McDonald's or something, or you're on the West Coast, so maybe it's In-N-Out Burger. I'm not sure how their service model is, but Chick-fil-A is renowned for, high quality level of service versus like McDonald's or Wendy's right now. It's kind of like, I don't really want to go there because I know my meal is going to be like wrong 3/4 of the time. And so that's kind of the practice model we try to build is a low volume, high quality office so you can give the highest quality care and then also, charge basically what I would call kind of more of a premium fee or command more of a premium fee in your office and get paid a reasonable amount. So you can, our goal in our office is basically to help people and have fun and make money. I mean, that's kind of the order there to keep it simple. We want to relieve people of pain and suffering and have fun doing it and not have to worry about making ends meet, because there's nothing worse than having a bunch of overhead and still having to work and being stressed out all the time. Like that's not a good model.
No, absolutely. And the model that you have established is really, it's, first of all, it's unfortunate that it's rare within upper cervical because it should be the standard, like the consistent standard of upper cervical care, in my opinion, should be a higher priced care because it's a higher level of care. Yeah. And so often we have to talk doctors into raising their prices. It's like, doc, you're delivering a high quality care that's unlike anything that anyone else can get anywhere else in the entire state, or sometimes even in multiple states.
Yeah.
And you're charging, the same as a chiropractor down the street that's doing something that's, it's not anywhere near what you're doing. Right.
It's like 100 times simpler to do and to onboard a patient for.
Yeah. And so I love what you're doing. I love that you have positioned it in such a way that it's like, hey, this is unique. This is valuable. This is important. This is not something you can get anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And when you do that and you consistently do it, like you said, it attracts others, right? You get referrals even, and it's like, some people out there are thinking like, oh, wow, a $6,000 care plan, $10,000 care plan. And it's like, you don't understand what people pay for every day. Mm-hmm. People pay an insane amount of prices for things that aren't nearly as valuable or important to your life as what you provide. And so it's without a doubt, I'm glad that you're talking about this. And I want more people to hear this because it's such an important message within upper cervical. And so, talk about that experience of what is a patient getting, like when they first come into the practice and through, even through the care plan, what is what's a typical kind of experience that a patient experiences in your practice?
Well, I guess what I would say is I think it's a lot of little things. I think when it comes to business and practice, I know like myself, just like I think a lot of others, we're kind of jump and look for like, hey, what's like the one thing you can do that's going to like turn this whole thing around. And I don't think there is a silver bullet. And there are some certain things that really, when you do them, you can move the needle. But I guess I would say it really starts typically off with what you call the day zero. Before the patient ever even shows up is pretty critical. First impressions are monumental. And so their ability to be able to schedule easy, anything that can kind of open up the funnel, so to speak, and limit any kind of inflow you want to try to do. And so, of course, having someone that's good on the phones is excellent. Having a website that's very easy to navigate and easy to utilize and easy just to get to the scheduling without having to do 18 clicks. All of those things are pretty critical. But I think it really once they get into the office and you've had the person who's talked to on the phone and greeted them and listened to them and were very nice to them and basically spoke to them in the way that they want to be spoke to and asked them about their needs and how their needs could be met and got them in as fast as possible as opposed to waiting 3 or 4 months for them to get in. All those things add up. And then they come into a nice office I don't have a hole in the wall office. I did have a hole in the wall office when I started, but as soon as we could, we basically bought a building and made it super nice. We tried to make it look like, some kind of a boutique hotel, basically. My wife designed all these different chandeliers and had them set up and things like that. And you don't necessarily have to do all those little things, but having like snack bars available and like an area for drinks and for coffee and nice magazines and pleasant smells. Where we basically looked, we planned in our office like, hey, we want to reach our patients at every different sense, whether it was like, the seeing, smelling, hearing, touching, all these different things. We tried to kind of emulate, I guess, what you would call like the Disney model, where you're trying to make your office smell nice and make it sound nice, and have people, as soon as you walk in the door, our team is trained to walk up and greet the patient because they've never been here before, and they're going to feel uncomfortable going to a brand new place. So all these little things that you set up begins to add up. And the term that I've heard it used is basically 100 pennies makes a dollar. And that's the reality, is like one little thing by itself is not going to really do anything, but you start stacking these things up. It makes a really, really big difference. And then the first time that after they've met our reception, they give them a tour of the office. So they're familiar where the snack bar is, where the restroom is, and where everything's at. And they get to see like the cutting edge equipment and things that we have in our office. So they kind of feel familiar. They get to meet with our team on day one, and our team will basically ask them like, hey, how's it going? What are you here for exactly? How can we help you? And then we find out like, oh, okay, this person's here for lower back pain, right? Kind of like the quintessential patient. They're here for lower back pain. And then we really find out why they're there. We find out their why. We basically dig into, hey, we understand you have this lower back pain, and, but how long has it been going on? Oh, it's been going on for like 10 or 15 years. Holy cow, man, that sounds miserable. How are you sleeping? Oh man, you're only getting a couple hours of sleep. Holy cow, that sounds awful. Like that's miserable. No wonder you're grumpy all the time. No wonder you're struggling to have good relationships with your family. That's like the worst. I mean, I missed 1 hour of sleep last night. I'm struggling today. I can't even imagine what this has been like for like 4 or 5 years. So you just kind of dig into their why, and you find out like, hey, they can't pick up their grandkids because their back hurts, and that's really why they're there. And I think when you have the ability to dig and ask a person and find out really what is the motivator, not just like, oh, they're here because they have pain. You find out really what they're going for, what their end game is. People really appreciate that. And you can repeat back to them and say, hey, it sounds like you're saying like your back's killing you. It's been bothering you for several months. You've been to 3 different doctors. They've all just given you pills. Nobody's really done any exams on you. It sounds like you had like 1 x-ray and they said it was all fine. You can't pick up your grandkids. Is that pretty much the size of it? And you can just see the worry and the anxiety start to lift off of their countenance as someone repeats back everything they said and is like, yeah, that's exactly why I'm here. What do we do about this? And that experience, I would say from in that, just in the first 20 minutes or 15 minutes of meeting with a person, if you can do that, people they'll be loyal to you forever if you can do that.
Yeah, so many people just want to be heard, right? They just want somebody to actually listen to them. Within the healthcare system, there's just so little of that, little of actually people actually listening or caring or, having any kind of real interest in what's going on. And especially, like you said, trying to, getting to that need behind the need, right? Yeah. It's not the back pain. It's something that it's impacting their life. How is it impacting their life? And if you can get to that, then you can really start to make a difference in their life. And so, we've been talking about your practice. I'm so excited about your practice. I want to go work at your practice, but it's an incredible practice, very unique within the upper cervical world. And I understand that there is currently an opening for an additional doctor within your practice. And I'd love for you to talk about that for anybody out there that, has been hearing about, your practice over this last, 30 minutes or whatever, and, would be interested in, if they're a new recent graduate, if they're a doctor who's looking for a change, if, maybe they've even been in practice for a while and it's just not working, all these different types of doctors that may be listening to this, can you talk to them about this opportunity within your practice?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have an opening in our practice. We're basically overburdened with the number of patients that we have coming in. I just want, there's a couple of reasons why. I mean, number one, I'd like to have help. But really, I think the main reason is I want to train someone else. I want someone else to be able to do what I do, provide hope and healing to all these people out here. I can't do any more myself, right? As far as within the time of day that I have, I've hired multiple assistants to help me out, or basically our bottleneck of helping more people is me. We need another doctor out there. As far as upper cervical is concerned, there's not enough upper cervical doctors out there. There's definitely not enough board certified NUCA doctors out there. And so I'd love to be able to share this way of practice with others. I'd love to be able to share with people how to reduce the subluxation. It's a very tough thing, unfortunately, to learn. I think there's some substantial challenges on learning upper cervical, but I think it can be worth it. I think having someone be able to kind of soften the learning curve for learning how to do NUCA is an amazing thing. And having someone soften the learning curve for learning how to practice and have fun and make money is also a big deal. And so we've got a couple extra rooms in our practice that are just collecting dust right now. And we're ready to rock and roll and have someone come in and change some lives.
That's awesome. So yeah, if you're interested in this position, we have it up on the screen if you're watching this on video, but if you're listening to it, it's TallahasseeSpinalCare.com/associate. That's TallahasseeSpinalCare.com/associate. And you can learn more about this position. You can apply there. You can, submit your information so Dr. Wainwright can get to know you and meet you. And yeah, I mean, this is just a tremendous opportunity to work with a true upper cervical practice master and someone who's really going to be able to invest in you and really help you to have an incredible career within chiropractic as well. So, Doc, thank you again for being part of the podcast and being part of this community. And this,
thank you.
Like I said, this is you've built a tremendous practice here. Really, really should be proud of what you've built, and excited for this doctor that comes into this practice. And like you said, they are going to get tremendous training from you and tremendous training in this type of an environment. And so I'm excited for them as well. And so again, TallahasseeSpinalCare.com/associate, go there, apply for this great position. And again, Dr. Wainwright, thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you all for listening. And as we always say, go team upper cervical.